Hi, fifth graders. Today we're going to talk about how to compare decimal numbers. And comparing decimal numbers, believe it or not, is almost exactly like comparing whole numbers. So first, it's important to remember that all numbers have value. And in order to compare different numbers, we can do that by comparing the digits in each place value position. So for example, let's say I wanted to compare 4 and 6 thousandths to 4 and 6 hundredths. In order to do this, I would start by rewriting my numbers vertically. And it's important to line up the place value positions. So one way that you can do this very easily is to use the decimal point as a guide. So I'm going to put 4 and 6 thousandths on the top and 4 and 6 hundredths underneath it, being very careful to line up each place value position. Next, I'm going to fill in placeholder zeros so that I have the same number of digits after the decimal point in each number. In this particular example, I need to add one placeholder zero in my second value, 4 and 6 hundredths. So I'll put a placeholder zero there. So now I have 3 digits after the decimal point in both numbers. Finally, just like with whole numbers, I'm going to move place value position by place value position and buddy up my digits until I find a set that doesn't match. Then I can just compare that digit. So starting in the ones place, I see that both numbers have the digit 4. Since they're the same, that particular place won't help me. I'll move on then to the tenths place. In both numbers, my tenths place digit is a 0, so that place value position won't help me. Then I'll move on to the hundredths place. In this particular place, I have two digits that are different. I have a 0 and a 6. So I can use these two digits to help me decide which number is greater. Since 0 is less than 6, that means that the number 4 and 6 thousandths is less than 4 and 6 hundredths. So I'm going very carefully, place value position by place value position, until I find two digits that are different. Let's take a look at one more example. This time I'm going to ask the question, which of these is greater, 0 and 3 tenths or 0 and 30 hundredths? Again, I'm going to start by writing my numbers vertically, and to line up the place value positions, I'll use that decimal point as a guide. So I'm going to write 0 and 3 tenths and 0 and 30 hundredths vertically. Then I'll fill in any placeholder zeros so I have the same number of digits after the decimal point in both numbers. In this case, I need to add a placeholder 0 in my first number. Now you might have noticed something that just happened, but let's go through our last step. Finally, I'll go place value position by place value position to buddy up my digits. In the ones place, I have a 0 in both my numbers, so that particular place won't help me. In the tenths place, I have a 3 in both my numbers, so that digit won't help me. Finally, in the hundredths place, I have the digit 0 in both numbers. Since all of my place value positions have the exact same digits, that means both of these numbers is exactly the same. Let's take a look at this another way so that we can prove that 0 and 3 tenths is equal to 0 and 30 hundredths. Let's say I wanted to show this on a grid. I know that to show 3 tenths, I'll color in 3 skinny tenths rods. And to show 30 hundredths, this time I need to color in 30 tiny little hundredths cubes. Now if I were to shift that top 3 tenths right over on top of the 30 hundredths, it's going to line up to be exactly the same. You'll notice that those yellow tenths rods slid over the blue hundredths cubes, which is showing me that 3 tenths is exactly the same as 30 hundredths. And this brings up an important thing for us to learn. The big idea here is that adding a placeholder 0 at the end of a decimal number might change its name, but not its value. In other words, I started out with 3 tenths. When I added that placeholder 0, Now I would read this number as 30 hundredths. The name of it changed, but the value stayed exactly the same. So this idea is going to be super important as we move forward. But the big lesson here is to compare decimals, line up your place value position by place value position, add in any placeholder zeros, and cross off digits until you find a set that doesn't match. Adding those placeholder zeros only changes the name of the decimal, not the value or how much it's worth. We'll do lots more practice with these, but thanks for watching, and hopefully this helped you understand how to compare decimal numbers.